Hi, Dale LePage here for New England Pride TV, and we are lucky enough tonight to be at First Event, the Transgender Conference, and we are making the world a better place. We're going to meet some very inspirational, inspiring people tonight, and we'll have more right after this on New England Pride TV, so stay tuned. Dale LePage here for New England Pride TV. I am here with Community Service Award winner Mimi LeMay. Welcome.
Thank
to
you.
New England Pride TV.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Mimi is an advocate for transgender youth and the proud parent of a 7-year-old transgender son, Jacob. She began her advocacy shortly after the family transitioned, writing a blog post about the experience in A Letter to My Son, Jacob, in his 5th birthday. Can you explain to our viewers at home what that is?
So after our son transitioned, we transitioned him at the age of 4. After about a 2-year journey, which at the time, 2012 to 2014, we didn't really know a lot. There wasn't a lot out there in the public about transgender children, very young children. So we did a lot of listening and a lot of learning, my husband Joe and I. And our whole family transitioned with Jacob in June of 2014. And it was shortly afterwards, within the next 6 months, that we began to see things in the press which made us realize that we had been living in a kind of bubble where we thought that Jacob would always be protected because our community members were so supportive. And it took several events, including Leila Alcorn's tragic death, to make us realize that the whole world didn't view Jacob the way we did, as this brave boy that had gone through such a journey and deserved all support. So we realized that we needed to speak out. And I've always enjoyed writing, and I wrote about our experience, and I put it online, never thinking that it would go viral, never thinking that NBC would be knocking at the door wanting to do a piece on transgender children, and had picked our family. From there, it was a matter of agencies coming to us, advocacy agencies saying there's a bill that we hope to get passed in Massachusetts. It provides people like your son Jacob with a free access to public spaces. That's the Public Accommodations Bill. And this is going to be critical for Jacob's future. And we realized that it was. So from writing that letter and then doing that little piece on NBC, we ended up jumping feet first into the legislative piece of the advocacy. And now, even though this bill has passed and legislators made the right choice in 2016, there are several groups, anti-LGBT groups, who have tried to put this back on the ballot for November 6, 2018. And what I hope that all of Massachusetts does is reaffirms the good choice that we made to treat all people equally. And when they go to the ballot on November 6, 2018, they think of people like my son Jacob and their ability to go out and enjoy everything that Massachusetts has to offer without fear of discrimination, because that's who we are as a state.
Now, you're such a good speaker. Do you go out and speak to different groups?
I do. I speak to faith groups. I speak to parents. I go to schools. A lot of schools in Massachusetts, there's a guideline for affirming transgender youth, but a lot of teachers and principals don't actually know how to put it into practice. So they sometimes inquire about, well, how does this actually look when a student comes in and says, I'm transitioning? What about privacy? What about bathrooms? And so I go to schools and I talk to parents and principals about things like this. And I've spoken out publicly about this, the bill, which is now a law, the trans equality law. And I will continue to speak out in the hopes that we make the right choice in November to bring equality, to keep equality for all people in Massachusetts.
That's incredible. Now, one of the things I want to touch on before our time is up, you mentioned when you first began to do research on this, there wasn't a lot out there for transgender children, and I suppose now you've become a beacon of light for other parents.
Thank you. I hope so, and I know I've been joined by many parents. I think this movement has really snowballed in a positive way. The parents are coming out, they're talking about their children, and when some parents come out, it frees other parents to come out. And I'm part of a big group of advocates who will always support their children, and like myself, who have fallen in love with a community of brave people who, despite all the odds, live their true self every day of their lives. And I'm just proud to be part of that work.
And you're an inspiration, and you're inspiring to so many.
Thank you.
It's just one of the many inspiring stories we have for you here on New England Pride TV. We'll be right back. We are back with more New England Pride, and we are joined now by Casey Suffrandini. He is the acting CEO and president of Strategy at Freedom for All Americans. Now tell me and our viewers, so we'll learn and we'll know what that is.
Sure, happy to, and thanks for having me, Dale. So Freedom for All Americans is the national bipartisan campaign to win non-discrimination protections for all LGBT Americans, regardless of zip code, everywhere that they live in this country. Right now in this country, there are 32 states where an LGBT person can be denied a job, denied housing, refused service at a restaurant, just because of who they are. You know, we believe that's wrong, and we're doing everything we can to fix that. In that role, I also serve as co-chair of the Freedom for All Massachusetts campaign, which is a specific campaign dedicated to passing public accommodations in Massachusetts. We were successful in 2016 in getting those protections passed. Our opponents have put those protections on the ballot, and so we'll be working between now and November 6th to make sure that we're able to preserve those protections.
Now, how did you get involved in this?
You know, I am a transgender man myself, which for folks who don't know means that I was raised as a girl. I always sort of knew that's not who I was, and eventually I figured out who I was and transitioned to live every day as the man I know myself to be. You know, I was really lucky. My family was pretty supportive. I was terrified to tell them. I have been doing LGBT advocacy work for 20 years, and even I was terrified to tell my family that I'm a transgender person. And I learned something from the way that they responded to me. I sent them an email. I couldn't even tell them in person. And my brother called me up, and he put me on a family conference call right away. And he says to me, you know, Casey, we don't care what name you use. We don't care what pronoun you want to use. We just love you. And, you know, what I want to know in this moment is you know, you said you were struggling with this for the last 10 years. I thought we were close. How is this the first time I'm hearing about it? And what I learned from that was, you know, we got to give people an opportunity, right? It's even transgender people. Right. You know, I didn't know a lot about transgender people before I realized that I was one, right? So we got to give people an opportunity to get to know us. And as there's more understanding about who we are, I feel very confident that you know, we will win things like this fight in Massachusetts, and we will eventually win protections all across the country.
Absolutely. Now, you said all across the country. Do you travel all across the country like year-round? Or?
I do. I'm actually on day 9 of a travel stint right now. I was just up in New Hampshire earlier this week, where they've had sexual orientation protections in place for quite a long time, but they do not have any protections for transgender people. So there was a big hearing on Tuesday, and about 150 people turned out in support of this bill. Majority of them transgender people who never thought they were going to be able to get these protections in a place like New Hampshire that is incredibly conservative right now. Only about 10 or 15 people showed up in opposition. And what we're learning from this is, you know, most of the states where we need to pass these protections are actually, they're red states, right? They're conservative states. But what we're learning is that, you know, equality and fairness and inclusion and opportunity and freedom, these are not partisan values. These are American values. And we're finding that even in these states where we have to work, you know, closely with conservatives to make the case to them, these bills are moving. And we're really, you know, we're not just changing minds, but we're changing hearts.
And I'm telling you, you're also, and I'm being totally honest, you and our other guests tonight are totally inspiring to me. So I just have to thank you I can only speak for myself and New England Pride TV, but we're so proud of you and the things that you're accomplishing.
Well, thank you very much. You know, it's actually, it's meaningful to be here at First Event tonight and to think about the folks who have been organizing events like this for decades and decades. You know, these kinds of events are so important to our community when for so long, you know, we didn't have any resources, we didn't have any support, and we've made incredible gains in the last few years, but there is no question that in this climate, we are in the fight of our lives, and, you know, events like this are more important, I think, in this moment than ever. So I'm just grateful to have benefited from the support of this community, and I feel really great being able to give back and do everything I can to continue to advance our freedom.
And we've benefited from you, so thank you.
Thanks, Dale.
All right, we'll be back with more New England Pride TV right after this. Dale LePage here for New England Pride TV. If you watch New England Pride TV, which I hope you do, You will recognize the person I'm with because Grace Stevens was New England Pride TV's Person of the Year for 2017. And we're back. Welcome back, baby.
It's a love fest here.
It is a love fest. We are right now at First Event, which you have done an incredible job planning.
Thank you.
And I don't even know how you're standing because there's so much hard work involved. I don't know how you do all you do.
That's why Dale's holding me up.
I am holding you up, gladly holding you up. What has First Event been like for you this year?
So First Event has been amazing this year in that the planning that we've done to create the biggest and the best conference we've ever done. We've had over 144 workshops all across the gender spectrum. We have vendors and we have support from corporate support this year, including Tufts Health Plan, Eastern Bank, Boston Medical Center, Harvard Pilgrim Health Plan. It's amazing now we're getting not just the doctors who support it and are looking for business, but we're getting corporate support to be there to support the transgender community and defend the transgender community and really learn about us, who we are as individuals and how we are no different than they are. And it's really important to keep reaching out and for everyone in the community to be seen and keep planting seeds so people learn who we are, that we're just like them.
Now, you said planting seeds, which for some reason brought me to you and your motivational speaking, because you're such an inspiration to so many. Everybody here that I've met is. And what's on the horizon for your promotional speaking? Not promotional speaking, motivational speaking.
Motivational speaking. It's wherever the world takes me. So the idea is to learn that we are no different than anybody else. What I talk about is authenticity. It's not just about gender identity. It's the idea, people always think that if you really knew me, you wouldn't like me. And what I tell them, and it has nothing to do with gender, and we're also afraid because we all immediately go to our shame core.
We absolutely do.
And the idea is we shouldn't be doing that. We should believe if you really knew me, you would love me to pieces. Like we do.
I do. She know. I do have a crush. My husband's probably watching this, but he knows I have a crush.
Right.
Actually, I drink from your coffee mug
My
pretty
Live
much
Your
every day.
Truth.
Live your truth. Actually, I took a picture of it one morning and I sent it to you. And
So it's just too bad that we're doing headshots now because I have lived my truth, live your truth as a tattoo on my ankle. But that's another story.
can you stand on your head?
I used to.
No.
But the idea is everyone should be living their truth and not being afraid that people will leave them or abandon them. It's the idea, if you don't live your truth, if you don't love yourself, you have nothing to give away to anyone else. And if people aren't going to love you for who you are, they're not the right people in your life.
You were a lot kinder than I would have said that, but that's right. That's exactly right. Now, before we say goodbye for this interview, I'm sure, hopefully there'll be many more. How can our viewers at home find out about you and your books and your appearances and your speaking?
Sure. At my website, liveyourtruth.net. It's liveyourtruth.net. You can find me anywhere. Contact me if you'd like to talk or like me to talk. So thanks, Dale.
It's always a pleasure talking with Grace. We'll be back with more right after this.